sometimes the most radical thing a person can do is realize that they want more, more freedom, more identity, more life than the one they've been handed. And that's kind of the quiet kind of revolution that's at the heart of The Awakening, a novel that was so controversial when it was published in 1899 that it nearly ended the author, Kate Chopin's career. And today, it still makes people a little uncomfortable. So let's talk about it. So The Awakening takes place in the early 19th century in the state of Louisiana, in a society that's built on some pretty rigid expectations, especially for women. And a woman's role was quite clear. Be a wife, be a mother, be graceful, be silent, be grateful. And things like personal desire all came second. Ambition most certainly came last. And Kate Chopin understood this world intimately. And she also understood how suffocating it could be. The character here at the center of this is Edna Pontellier, and she begins the novel in a state of relative comfort, but she's not quite fulfilled. She has a husband, children, wealth, social status, but she feels kind of disconnected from herself, like she's living someone else's life. And over the course of the novel, Edna experiences what Chopin calls an awakening. She begins to paint, she starts to explore independence, she questions marriage, she confronts her own desires. And most importantly, she begins to see herself as a person first, not as just a role. And this realization is liberating, but it has a hint of danger to it as well. Edna's emotional awakening intensifies when she develops some strong feelings for Robert Lebrun. But this isn't just like some kind of simple love story. What Edna wants isn't just romance. She wants autonomy. She wants to belong to herself. And that's where the novel draws its sharpest line. And that is, society can tolerate romance, but not a woman who refuses to be owned. So, when the Awakening was published in 1899, the critics of the novel were quite brutal. They called it immoral and vulgar and dangerous and especially inappropriate for women. And there was a specific reason why. And that was because Edna does something radical. She refuses to pretend that she's content. She doesn't repent, and she doesn't ask forgiveness. She also doesn't return quietly to her role. And in a time when women's independence was seen as a threat, Chopin wrote a character who dared to want more. And society punished both the character and the author, Kate Chopin, for it. The novel's ending is famously ambiguous. Edna walks into the sea. And some readers just see this as, she's in despair. And some see it as a form of protest. And Chopin never gives us an easy answer. And that's intentional. The ending forces the reader to confront an uncomfortable truth. What happens to people who don't fit the roles that society gives them? Is freedom always survivable? Or is the price sometimes unbearable? Now, the reason why The Awakening still matters, it's been over 100 years, and this novel still resonates, because the questions haven't gone away. Who gets to define a woman's purpose? How much freedom is too much? What happens when personal truth conflicts with social expectation? And Edna's struggle isn't just historical, it's actually human. And Chopin's bravery in writing this story paved the way for modern feminist literature. The Awakening isn't a romance, but it's not a tragedy. It's a confrontation, and that confrontation is with identity and freedom, and with the cost of selfhood. And Kate Chopin didn't give us answers. She gave us a woman who dared to ask the question. And sometimes that's the most powerful thing a story can do. Thanks for watching.